Hi, I'm Bob Vila. Welcome home again. We're at Elm Court, a beautiful shingle-style house from the late 1800s. It's actually 70,000 square feet of living space here in the town of Lenox in the Berkshire Hills. Today we're going to be showing you some of the work that's going on to reclaim this house, which sat abandoned for half a century. Today we're installing a ceiling and looking at some of the finished rooms. Stick around, it's good to have you home again. We're getting started today in the second-story west end of this enormous house, looking at some of the rooms that have not yet been totally restored. And this room is going to become a media room for one of the suites. And we've got Joe Adams with us and Ralph McGrath,
Hello.
both here from OC. And it's a new application for the do-it-yourselfer, right?
That's right.
It's a different kind of acoustical ceiling.
That's dead right. It's a quiet zone acoustyle ceiling, and the idea is to give the DIY person a chance to put up a really good-looking ceiling and control the noise within the room at the same time.
Well, looking at the area directly above you, it looks so appropriate for a house of this period. It's just very elegant. Now, the grid that's holding it up looks like the standard steel grid that you put up any kind of acoustical system with, right?
That's right. It's standard 15/16 T-bar grid, suspended ceiling.
And then what is the black surface that we're looking at?
The black material is a black acoustic board that's going to absorb the sound as it goes through the panel.
So it's about an inch thick, and it is fiberglass. How come they make
fiberglass.
it black, Ralph?
Well, we make it black so basically it disappears behind the panel and it doesn't show up. It's just perfect.
Like stagecraft. Anything
Exactly.
backstage is usually black.
Used a lot in theaters, auditoriums.
And then there doesn't seem to be any cutting involved in this, Joe.
That's correct. The transition blocks at the intersections of the grid system allow for just straight cutting. It's a very easy system to install. Just clips to the existing grid.
So when you buy the whole thing, you get all the different pieces that would then be clipped onto the existing grid. You get these pieces and you clip them on. What are these little black things there, Joe?
These are high carbon steel clip that it's a spring type clip that will adhere to the metal grid as well as to the wood. And it's just a straight push on metal clip.
Now, why do you need the extra clip? Why can't you just stick it up onto the grid?
Well, it's a system that allows it to expand and contract. One of the problems with wood ceilings is when the heat in the wintertime would hit a wood ceiling, it would cause the ceiling to shrink and pop the joints. So these clips are a spring-loaded high-carbon steel, and they will allow the ceiling to breathe, basically.
Are you ready for one of the coffers?
Not yet, Bob.
Okay, all right. So some of them, I notice, are perforated, and some of them are not, Ralph.
Yeah, that's the perforation is going to let the noise go through, get absorbed by the black boards in the background.
But you don't need to have the perforations in all of the coffers, just in a few.
No, basically you can just select whatever look you like, put them wherever it makes sense from an aesthetic point of view.
And here we've got a room that's more or less rectangular, so you've laid them out kind of in a rectangle along the central
That's right.
portion of the...
That's right. We've got a rectangle around the outside, which is solid, followed by a rectangle which is perforated, and then we've got a solid section in the...
yeah, here's a solid one. Now, this is walnut, isn't it? I mean, it's not a photo finish or anything like that. It's real wood.
It's real walnut, yeah. It's real walnut. These all solid walnut sections.
Now...
And again, you see the clips again?
Yeah, the backside of it.
So the whole thing can move.
Exactly.
Adjust with temperature.
So that when the heating season is upon us and there's contraction of the wood and stuff, you don't have any cracks developing.
That's right. Lasts forever.
Now, how does the do-it-yourselfer that wants to put this in figure out what they need and buy it?
Well, it's based on a standard 2-foot by 2-foot grid section. So within any size room, there's just a bill of materials list.
Great.
And away it goes.
So the panel would set in just like a typical suspension panel.
Beautiful.
In place.
Next, we'll join homeowners Bob and Sonia Burley for a look at the restored parlor here at Elm Court. Our hosts here at Elm Court, Bob and Sonia Burley, have been working on the restoration of the house for three and a half years, right?
That's correct.
And we're in the main salon, the main parlor. Now, Sonia, when you started, you had a mess, because this is totally vandalized, right?
It was indeed. The windows were all broken out. There was debris covering the floors. All of the columns here, the pilasters, the capitals, people had tried to remove them, and so some of them were completely gone, and other ones were half crushed. It was really depressing.
Very
actually.
daunting. And from the point of reconstruction,
Yes.
I mean, this is all plaster work, right?
Yes.
How did you accomplish all of this?
There was a combination of techniques to include silicone glues as well as actually just crafting details out of 3-minute plaster.
Really?
And so it took several months actually to get around the room.
Mm-hmm. And then the decor is always the big payoff. How did you decide to paint it pink?
Yes. Well, this tone actually, it is actually a tint from the historical palette of a historical hue, and actually the inspiration was this chair over here. That was a piece of furniture that was original to the house,
Okay.
and that was indeed where everything developed.
So the furnishings, even though the house was vandalized and the house was locked up for half a century, the furnishings that we're looking at are original to the house.
Many are. When the vandalism started, my grandparents did move some pieces into their personal house, into the basements, and they were stored there.
So a rug this size in a basement?
Yes,
Yeah.
this one was rolled up in storage for 50 years. It's a silk aubusson, and is just really an inspirational piece.
It is. I mean, this is the biggest room in the house, right? Do you know what
Yes,
the dimensions
it is
are?
indeed. Yeah, this one is 35 by 40.
By 40.
Yes,
And so the rug approximates that side.
exactly.
Yeah.
Easier to stand on than to move.
Right. I imagine moving it is a very big job. Tell us about some of the stuff in the room, though. I mean, what do you call, I mean, when you approach a room like this and decide to set up, you know, tables and chairs in one corner and this right in the middle, what are these pieces?
Well, it's these fainting sofas or chaise lounge. Really, in the room overall, we just look for a nice flow and to have it also functional, but yet sparsely decorated enough so that the room still has a nice open feeling, and one can really enjoy the architectural details of the house. But these were reupholstered, but at the same time, the upholstery's new, but we were able to keep the original bullion fringe.
Oh, so the fringe is original
Yes.
to the pieces.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is indeed.
And they call them fainting couches. But again, this is a reception room, so you want to keep it sparse enough that you can have 50 people or more
Exactly.
standing around at a party.
Exactly.
That's correct.
Now, is this the ancestor?
This is my great-great-grandfather, W.D. Sloan, who built the house with his wife, Emily Vanderbilt Sloan.
And that's Emily in the portrait across the salon.
Yes.
Okay.
And we enjoy the fact that they look at each other every day through their portraits, obviously.
In the room.
That's right.
Yeah. And then other furnishings like the chair below it and the table and chairs here. What style is that, Sonia?
Yes. Well, this is a French set. Again, we had to reupholster it. It is original to the house, as well the chair that you pointed out. In this room, the idea was to have, this room has the largest concentration of original furnishings in it. We were really trying to make this room as intact as we could with original pieces.
Wonderful. And yet things like the fireplace, had they been destroyed as well?
Oh, boy.
This fireplace was probably in over 50 pieces, including the back stonework and the marble work surrounds. Many of the pieces had been broken, and then somebody threw them out the window or used them to break windows. And so the ongoing sport is when it rains, we go out and we look outside these 3 windows, and occasionally we find a piece.
I noticed you've still got one missing piece, or rather one loose piece here.
It's somewhat of a mystery piece. It doesn't belong there.
You haven't figured out where it goes, but there are other areas where they're still missing.
And we're hopeful that after this spring's heavy rains, we find those.
Yes.
Well, that's kind of the story of Elm Court, is that there are so many missing pieces that you're hopeful slowly they will be found or slowly they'll be returned. Because for so many years, this was a place that was kind of a free-for-all for kids and vandals or whoever to come and do mischief.
Exactly.
We've been very heartened by the return of a few items over time from strangers and friends, and we welcome them all back with open arms.
How about the bust on top of the marble mantelpiece?
Well, this piece as well is original to the house, and it was in the dining room, is where it was originally placed. And we decided to move it into here again, keeping in that theme of having as many original items in
So-
this room as possible.
Did it survive, Bob, because it was in storage?
It was actually in the stable when we got here, which seems an odd place to keep a bust like that. But nonetheless, after pulling rubble off of it, there it was.
It looks terrific. Looks like that's where it belongs.
Oh, good.
Great. When we come back, we'll continue our visit at Elm Court with a tour of the dining room. Wow, now this has to be the most ornate ceiling anywhere in the house, right?
Well, it is indeed. There's all of the egg and dart and the acanthus leaf, the rococo scrolling.
And that's just in the cornice part of it.
Yes, and that actually, it's a motif that the family carried through different homes that they constructed. In fact, you can find that motif in Grand Central Station in New York City on the ceiling.
Because the Vanderbilt family built Grand Central as a gift for the city of New York.
And the question is whether it was the same builders that went from property to property. Actually, this was the last addition to the house in 1910.
Aha! So that's one reason why it kind of projects on this corner of the exterior.
That's
and
correct.
kind of stands alone from the rest of the mass of the house.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, but getting back to the ceiling, how did this survive 50 years of a house being shut down, not heated, and vandalized?
Fairly well. We got lucky on the ceiling. Again, I think it was high. One of the things that we faced was that large portions of the ceiling, while intact, had separated from the support which held it up in the air.
From the lath.
We got lucky that they didn't actually fall on the ground and smash, but one of the concerns was that as we jack it into place, would it stay up or would it fall? And so we scaffolded the floor and used house jacks and epoxies, which we injected underneath the plaster ceiling and pushed it into place.
Pushed it back into place and it held.
And it held.
And what about the paint? Had the paint all peeled off in the cold?
It took months to get the old paint off to keep and retain the original details without either destroying the details or making them so murky.
Now, you are responsible for a lot of the decoration of the house, and most people don't think about putting the dark color on the ceiling and the light color on the walls. We got white walls and a beautiful kind of yellow for the ceiling.
Oh, yes, and I did that for a couple of reasons. One was to bring the room down a bit visually to make the room a little more comforting, but also because of the sun exposure that we get into the room, if we were to have a white or a bright ceiling, you would actually lose a lot of the detail, the architectural details that are in the ceiling and that make the room so special during a large portion of the day.
Fabulous. Now, you've got historic photographs of the room, don't you, on the table here?
Yes.
And this is this terrific book that really shows a lot of the interiors of the summer cottages here in Lenox by Edwin Hale Lincoln. So can we look at what's here? I mean, there's this fantastic ceiling, and there's the mantelpiece at the far end. Are any of the original furnishings still here?
Well, we indeed have 2 chairs, the original armchairs. At one time there were 38 chairs that completed the set, but we do have the 2 armchairs that are still existing, which is really nice to have.
And 38 of them. I suppose great-grandmama would have big dinner parties.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
There were.
one long table.
Yeah.
And the stories in the family are that there was one footman behind every chair. And when my great-great-grandmother was done eating, all of the food was removed from the table at the same time. So
From all other 37.
if you'd started or not, that was it. She's a very fast eater, evidently.
Yeah. And now you've refurnished it with like a half dozen individual seating groups, round tables, and then you can still set up a big table in the middle here. What's your thinking?
Exactly. Well, with this being a home, it's also a bed and breakfast, and so the guests have their breakfast in here. It's where they dine, and then also when we have a lot of brides and grooms are going to get married here and have gotten married here, and this is one of the rooms that they utilize for their formal dining.
Exactly. Where do you go shopping for chairs like this? I mean, these are new bought, new made, right?
Yes, they are newly made. I've acquired a lot of pieces from around different places in the United States, but also I've gone to England as well, and it's been an international search, really is the best way to put it.
Well, this certainly looks like the crown of Windsor or whatever up at the top and the crest and everything. But getting back to the construction, Bob, the floor's the original, the windows, was everything vandalized? I mean, did you have to put new windows in here or what?
The windows were boarded up when we got here with large gaps. There was actually standing water on the floor at various times of the year. As windows were broken, they would be reboarded, and many of the actual sashes were destroyed.
Yeah.
And our crew has done a wonderful job with salvaged wood and also 4x4 cedar, has ripped down sashes, which are original, look original, but of course are brand new.
But you've put in thermal glass in all of these.
We have the existing frames. We did route out to accommodate the thicker glass.
That's great.
And it's been a lifesaver when the wind blows.
And of course, we're looking west at what is the Stockbridge Bowl, right?
That's correct. The Stockbridge Bowl, and quite a nice view of many of the Berkshire Hills.
It's great. It's a magnificent room, and I don't think we can leave it without at least commenting on the marble mantelpiece. What do we know about this?
Well, there were some beautiful motifs on it originally. A lot of beautiful vines scrolling.
Oh, in bronze, you mean, that have been stripped off by vandals?
Yes, yes, indeed.
Yep,
So,
I see that.
have them at this point. And these andirons were also original to the house, had been in storage, and so we have placed them here. And this tapestry was a piece actually from the 1860s that we acquired when we were living in New Orleans. And that one we were very luckily, it was almost a magical fit into this spot that once held something different.
Because the room itself, as we can see in the historic photograph, once contained 3 very special tapestries.
Exactly.
They did.
And those are long gone.
They are. They were removed. Some were lost throughout the years.
Okay, so our final visit will be in the kitchens that you've restored.
Oh, great.
Coming up next, a look at the kitchen, restored with historic detail and modern conveniences. Wow, so this is a butler's pantry, right?
Yes, it is indeed. This was the preparation and the launching area into the formal dining room for all of the wonderful meals.
So if you were saying a minute ago that you had a table that sat 38 and 38 footmen would be wandering through here trying to serve.
Yes, they would. They would. They would have 2 areas of flow that they could utilize to go into the dining room to try to make it as smooth sailing as possible. And it's also the area that we use for when we cater events for the weddings and special dinners.
What condition was it in?
When we arrived, there was a very large, I think is the best word to say, hole right here that went through to the basement. There was a great deal of structural work. We jacked up the old refrigerator, which you can see here.
This is the old icebox?
It is.
Oh, yeah.
It was literally an ice box in that you filled this top lead-lined compartment with ice, and the cold air went down into your items below. It was retrofitted into a mechanical refrigerator in the 50s, briefly.
But this was such a big, heavy item that the vandals couldn't take it.
They couldn't.
Exactly.
They did take the hardware, however.
Oh,
Yes,
that's
they
too
did.
bad. Yeah, maybe you can find some. And then this is the actual working area of the kitchen.
Yes, it is. And the kitchen here, well, the condition, it was in terrible condition. Everything had been, again,
But it's very
broken
nice how
out.
you've kind of made it, it kind of matches the front hall and the paneling that you see throughout the house, doesn't it?
Yes, yes. The idea was to utilize motifs from the rest of the house into the kitchen so it would appear as that it could have always been here.
What condition was this in? I can imagine vandalism in a kitchen like this.
It was extreme. There really wasn't an appliance. There was feet of debris on the floor as well as soap suds.
But the floor, which looks to be a terrazzo, has to be the original, right?
It is the original floor. And we luckily discovered it one day with some water from a water bottle that was accidentally spilled before there was electricity in the house, and we thought we had a concrete bed of a floor. And
But you
found
mean it
this.
was a scummy kind of base that
It's
covered it?
impossible to
Oh, it
see until the water hit it, and then of course we were squirting water all over the floor trying to uncover it.
And then you realize it's full of all these red spots and stuff. But you've done a wonderful job.
Oh, great. And
Thanks for the tour so far. We're running out of time, but next week we're going to be visiting again here, showing you the upstairs bedroom suites and the installation of a state-of-the-art laundry facility. Till then, I'm Bob Vila. It's good to have you home again. Looking for help on your next project? Visit bobvila.com for everything you need to get the job done right. You'll find Home Again highlights, interactive tools for planning your next project, and helpful how-to articles for every room in your home. bobvila.com, the ultimate home site.